Good morning, everybody. I was about to say it's Positive Tuesday, but it's not. 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is back for another episode of Breakfast with Tiffany. Today, Friday, August 13th, 2021. Special thank you to Washburn County Chief Deputy Steve Pank for filling in for Fitzy on this week's Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show. In case you missed it, you can find a recording of that and all of our shows on our website at DrydenWire.com, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. Next Tuesday, Fitzy and I are off, so we can air Mom's Diane's Kitchen show. No, it's not a cooking show. And she'll be visiting with former Spooner Police Canine Officer and now owner of Third Day Woodworks, Trevor Peterson. And next Thursday, Adam Jarko and Patty Shockner and I will be airing our latest live episode of Politically Speaking with Adam and Patty. But today, of course, is Breakfast with Tiffany with Congressman Tom Tiffany. Tom, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, but I have to say a little reservations. Until you said it, I didn't realize it's Friday the 13th. Should I be canceling my travel plans today?
Oh, snap. I didn't know that either, actually. I just said it and I didn't even realize it.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
Be careful out there.
Yeah, I don't even know where that started. Wasn't it? I don't remember.
What did they call when people have a phobia for it? Do you know the name of that?
No.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Say that again?
Don't ask me to spell it.
What is it called?
Triskaidekaphobia. Triska. So it's
Triskaphobia. All right. I'm sure Google will figure it out.
It goes to the number 13, I suspect.
Actually,
I'm getting in an area that I don't have a lot of expertise. So all I know is it's called triskaidekaphobia, and or at least I'm pretty sure of that. And if any listeners have input, they can always send a note in to you, right?
Phobia. Yeah, they certainly can. I don't think they will. But I'm certainly going to look it up as soon as we're finished. Because every time you're on, you always use words I've never heard of before. And I don't mind other people being smarter than I am. Just, don't throw it in my face.
I don't claim to be smarter. I just know it's triskaidekaphobia.
Sure. All right, fine. Smart aleck. So how have you been? It's been a month since our last show. What's new with you?
Yeah, interesting times. After I was on show last time, spent a couple weeks in Washington, D.C., number of pieces of legislation that we're going through and stuff like that. And now we have been on what they call the August break. It will not be a full August break this year because we're going to go back in session August 23rd. We just got notice from the majority leader, Steny Hoyer, and he and Speaker Pelosi have decided we're going to come back in, deal with a couple pieces of legislation, but been able to get out and about some and see people. In fact, I'm going over to the Pope Burnett Electric Cooperative Picnic right after the show. I'm driving over there, and I can't wait to see the fine folks over on the west side of the district, and so that's going to be good. And I've got staff in the district this week.
Are they being punished, or?
This, for them, it is much like a vacation to come to northern and western Wisconsin.
Right.
Would you agree?
Right. Because so these are, I'm assuming your staff is like your DC staff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's
so
right.
if they're not probably from here. So what was the reasoning for having them come here? Just to kind of, I don't know, take a look.
So it's actually kind of interesting. So not all of them are from Wisconsin. One young man that works for us is from Duluth. So he's actually very familiar with northwestern Wisconsin. And my chief of staff is originally from Wisconsin, though he lives in Washington, D.C. now. And I have other staff that has roots in Wisconsin, so they have that good perspective. But what I try to do there, Ben, and we did this last year also, is I think it's really important for the D.C. staff to come here to Wisconsin once or twice a year just to see what is happening in the district and get a feel for what is going on in this district. For example, this morning, they're going to be up at the Fraser Shipyard in Superior. That's really a key employer. It's a cornerstone the shipping industry for a community like Superior and northwestern Wisconsin. And I think being able to see those things up close, firsthand, being able to hear from the people that work there, I think that's really a good thing because it's so easy to get insulated out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
and just lose track of the real world, which is out here. And so I just think it's really important for staff to come here to Wisconsin. They really enjoy the trip. They do a few fun things besides the visits and the tours and stuff like that. But it's also it's a working trip for them where they're really getting to meet people here in the 7th Congressional District and understanding what makes us tick. And I think that helps them do their job better out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me actually that you have them here, because you have been on actually doing a live show. You were in, I can't remember the name now, McKale, something Texas, southern border, right? McAllen, that's what it was. You have been down there, and I remember even talking about that. Like, why are you going? I mean, it's at the border, and then you were, oh shoot, what was the other place you were just, yeah, like who goes there? Like nobody would ever go there. My travel agent couldn't even find it on a map. And you had said before that it's important to, when we're making decisions and issues are coming up, it's easy to just sit here and look at a piece of paper or some pictures, but you got to get out there and actually see it firsthand. So it doesn't surprise me that you've actually have your staff in the district for probably the same reason, right?
Yeah, it gives you context. You get to meet real people, and you understand what makes things tick. It makes a big difference to do those trips to these local communities. It gives you a much better perspective of what's going on, and that's why I'm going to the electric co-op picnic today.
And by the way,
that and the food.
Well, that too. You remind me. I've been trying to figure out our next little trip somewhere to go on a vacation. I haven't been on a vacation in, I don't know, 8 years. And like more than just a few cities away. My wife and I'll get away every once in a while for like a weekend. And we want to go to Washington, D.C. By we, I mean me. So therefore, we want to go to Washington, D.C. And we're looking at all this, and I was telling the kids about it and showing them all the here's this thing and here's this, and we can go here. But they're like, well, we can see it right here. I'm like, that's kind of a legitimate point. Okay, that's fine. Like, we can learn everything about everything right now. We can take virtual tours. But, man, there's just something about going. There just is. And what I would need to do is, I should schedule it for a time where I know that you're there, and we can do a live show at your place.
Yeah, you should absolutely do it. In fact, there's a local radio personality here in the 7th Congressional District. He and his family, he has... I think his kids are all adult at this point, but like they're early 20s. There's like 6 or 7 of them. They took the train from Portage, Wisconsin, out to Washington, D.C. Did a tour out in Washington, D.C. We did an interview from my office with him, and then they did their thing in D.C., and now they're back home here in northern Wisconsin. But they said they had a great time with their trip. We would love to do a DrydenWire live from Washington, D.C.
Oh, we're totally doing that. And by the way, as soon as you said train, so my wife and I, she's obviously working. Got to make that money for me. But we watch the show at night. So tonight, she and I will watch the show. I get to critique myself, see how it went, and always find areas to improve. And she gets to watch it for the first time. And so she'll be hearing me this evening saying this. As soon as you said train, you sold her. Because she's been wanting to take a train trip, and we can't figure out where to go. I didn't know you could take a train trip to Washington, D.C. from Wisconsin. Didn't even know you could do that.
Yes, you can.
So in Portage. Where's Portage?
Just north of Madison, about 45 minutes.
We're totally doing this. All right, let's move on to, actually important things. So I have 3 things written down here in terms of just general topics that I wanted to discuss. And bullet point versions are schools, masks, and vaccinations, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. Actually, I have several questions about that because I guess somehow this is tied into now a $3.5 trillion thing. I need you to walk me through this. And then, of course, the Taliban surge in Afghanistan, because you and I have talked about the Middle East before, and if people aren't paying attention to the Middle East, you should. You absolutely should all the time, because that has so many impacts for so many different reasons, and a few other things if we get time. But first, let's start with schools, masks, and vaccinations. I feel like right now we are in the exact same place we were last year. It feels like it. I know we're not in the same place. But it feels like
Yeah.
school's coming up. Now we're talking about masking again. Now school topics again. Now COVID is starting to come up in Northwest Wisconsin in terms of the numbers. So it feels like this is just a repeat of exactly where we were last year. Let's just start with the overall. What is your views on the schools? Masks? Should people, should they have to get vaccinations? Where do you want to start with this? Where do you want to go with this conversation?
So I think your characterization is really accurate. That it's almost like it's deja vu. But I can tell you, for parents, for many parents, it is not. It is not deja vu. They have seen this, and a lot of parents are attending school board meetings that have never attended in the past, and they're saying, we don't want to see these mask mandates once again. But here's the information that I'm imparting to people. So, what really kicked this off a couple of weeks ago, the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Fauci came out and said that masks should be, you should wear masks in schools. This is our recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people take that as a mandate, that this should, that we have to do it. That is not the case. The Centers for Disease Control does not issue mandates. They just issue recommendations, and they issue guidance. It is up to the local school board, and that's the information that I'm putting out to especially local school boards as well as county boards at this point. Is this is just a recommendation. You decide what's best for your community, and that's actually been the case throughout this whole thing, dating back 16, 17 months ago. It is your local community's decision, your local school board's decision. For example, there's a county down in Missouri where their county health officer said to the schools, you decide what you want to do. I am not going to mandate a mask. Now, that's very unusual. Most county health officers, I know here, certainly in Wisconsin, they're going to say, you should absolutely follow the CDC.
Sure. Yeah.
We want you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this county health officer said, no, you don't have to do that. You do what's best for your school. Well, they had about half their schools in that county that said, we're going to make masks optional. If you think a mask is really important to wear, then you should wear it. If you think that you should have a vaccine, get a vaccine. But that should be your personal choice. And that's what I'm emphasizing to people at this point, especially in regards to the mask mandate, is that, or the mask suggestion. It's not a requirement. It's not a mandate. It's just guidance. Might be a better way for me to put it,
Sure.
is say the mask
Mm-hmm.
guidance.
Mm-hmm.
It's your decision whether you want to do that
Mm-hmm.
or not. Now, I can, I'll take my congressman's hat off for a second and speak as a parent who has a kid in public school. And when you look at the data, it was a year ago that Dr. Redfield from the Centers for Disease Control said that the cold and flu are more dangerous to children than the coronavirus. There is very minimal risk for a child to get severely ill or, God forbid, die as a result of the coronavirus. The coronavirus, in part, is most deadly for those over 65 years of age. That's who should ultimately be extremely careful with this. And also, kids have very low transmissibility. If you remember back at the very start of this, 16, 17 months ago, the word was out that kids are the super spreaders. That turns out not to be the case at all.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Is that kids are not, there's very low transmissibility for kids. So I just emphasize to school boards, make the decision that's best for your local community. And parents, get engaged on this and share your thoughts. I know I do with our local school board. Once again, putting my personal hat on, I express my opinion to our local school board that I believe that it is really important to get kids back to normal. A lot of kids across the United States have lost a year of schooling. We're also seeing some interesting data points where, for instance, girls 12 to 17 years of age, there's a 51% spike in suicide attempts. Why is that? That's because of the social isolation. And we need to consider all the factors that go into the health of our children, not just this one thing. And we're seeing things between the increased suicide attempts, increased drug overdoses, those type of things. Those are all, I believe, tied to this social isolation that has happened as a result of lockdowns, mandates, stuff like that, and also wearing masks where you can't see little kids, where you can't see kids' faces. I think this is really harming, especially younger children in the elementary schools, their ability to communicate when they cannot see people's faces. So I'm very much a strong advocate
Sure.
for making masks optional. You make the choice as parents, and I believe that's what schools should
Yeah.
do.
We have a question here. It just says, is it ever going to be over if people don't get the shots? This seems like more variants, and now I know there's a new one. I think it's a South African one. I can't remember what it's called. I was just reading about it this morning. Obviously, you're not a medical professional, but from what you're hearing, is this when is the potential end here? How do we get to that end from your understanding?
Unfortunately, there's some that don't want to see an end to this, and they're actually, I believe, using people's lack of information uh, against them to a certain extent. I mean, remember when we've had viruses in the past, as I like to say, a virus is going to virus. And let me give an example of what that means. If you take a look at north central Wisconsin right now, in terms of healthcare, and then you compare it to South Central Wisconsin, there's almost an identical percentage increase in the number of people that are getting COVID via this Delta variant. South Central Wisconsin, which includes Madison and Dane County, has a far greater number of people that have been vaccinated than North Central Wisconsin. Yet the increase is the same. So that leads you to believe is the virus just going to virus? Is it just going to go through the
Yeah.
population? And I think what we have to get back to is personal choice and personal responsibility. If you are concerned about this and you think it's important to be vaccinated, get vaccinated. And if the vaccines work, that protects you from somebody who chooses not to get vaccinated. If you think it's important to be vaccinated and wear a mask, that gives people greater protection, then you should do that because that will protect you against the person who may be unvaccinated, who does not choose to wear a mask. If these things work, as the Centers for Disease Control says, masking and vaccinations, then do it and protect yourself, and you'll be just fine. I think it should be a personal choice, though, and the sooner we move on here, the better,
Sure.
by allowing individual choice in these matters. And by the way, the ultimate point I was going to make here, Ben, is that, and I'm not a medical professional, but this is the history of viruses. Viruses will come and hit, and when they first mutate and come out, they can be their most deadly. But then, as they mutate additional times, like with the Delta variant, they oftentimes are not as deadly. And so far, we're seeing that in Wisconsin, where we're seeing basically the same amount of deaths from COVID now compared to 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And the Delta variant is, at this point, is proving not to be as deadly as the original, what did they call it, alpha or whatever it was called.
Sure. Well, I
But
must
it's
be.
going to continue. Any virus,
Yeah.
Ben, is going to continue to mutate
Sure.
because it wants to continue to live, but it also mutates in a way that makes it not as deadly because if it kills all of its hosts, then it dies
Oh, I
also.
suppose. Sure. Unfortunately, that would be. Unfortunately, all those hosts are people. Real quick question about the. This isn't about schools, but it is about the vaccination. I just thought of it. I think I put up a question on our Facebook page about a week ago about this. There have been discussions, and I know that some are already doing it, businesses in Northwest Wisconsin, that they are requiring not masks or a card to get in, but for their employees, that you have to be vaccinated as a part of the requirement to work there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I disagree with it. And one of the main reasons that I disagree with vaccine mandates is that the vaccines are still experimental at this point. I actually believe that there is some legal liability as a result. If you say, as a business owner, put it this way, I owned a small business for 20
Yep.
years. I would have been very concerned about putting forth a vaccine mandate because the drugs that are being given at this point are experimental. And I believe that puts some liability on the business owner when you make it
Oh,
a
sure.
requirement to work at your business. Now, even when they're talking about these vaccines are going to um, have the experimental tag taken off from them, that they will be
FDA approved.
FDA approved. Thank
Right.
you
Because
very
I know
much.
many people right now, like no kidding, have said they want to get it. They do. They're not like anti. They want to help. But it's just the concern. Like the second FDA approves one of them, done. Now, I mean, I'm not going to argue with them. That's their choice. But I've heard that from a number of people.
Yeah, I mean, people want to see the studies and stuff like that that give them greater assurity that there's not going to be harmful side effects. But at the end of the day, I do not support vaccine mandates.
Sure.
I think that that is a personal choice by people, and I believe it is up to the drug manufacturers, up to epidemiologists and others to convince people that this is the best thing to do. I mean, that's how we've always operated in this country. Don't mandate things, show us how this benefits us,
Sure.
and let people come along willingly. That's
Yeah.
how I believe this should be handled.
To put a bow on this, so because I want to get to these last two things here,
Yeah.
but is um, why are so what you're saying right now, everything that you just said, the people that know you, or even if they didn't know you, but they knew that you were a Republican, would say, "Yep, that sounds like what a Republican would say." Why is it that this is we? If you're a Republican, yeah, we know where you stand. And if you're a Democrat, yep, we know where you stand. Why?
Yeah, I don't. So yeah, people have went to their political corners in many instances with this, but I'm hearing and seeing people seeing and hearing from people
Mhm.
that are cut across political boundaries that are like, hold it, let's talk about this a little more. I'll give you a quick example.
Sure.
A guy from Johns Hopkins University, known widely as an expert in this field of epidemiology and other stuff, Marty McCary. Marty McCary is no Republican. In fact, I would expect that he probably votes straight ticket Democrat. He came out recently and put out an op ed saying that don't mask children. It is counterproductive. There are many reasons not to do it. You can find the article, I suspect, if you look for it. I saw it in the Wall Street Journal. And I think that's what people are looking for, though, is let's get into the nuance of this more rather than just taking this blanket approach that we all got to mask, we all got to vaccinate. Let's talk about what's best for each individual person, because there's people out there, and I hear from them that they're like, I can't wear a mask because I have respiratory problems, stuff like that. There are exceptions to these things, and we need to deal with those issues. There needs to be much more nuance come to this. And one of the biggest problems, to put the bow on it, is that we have a public health agency in the Centers for Disease Control, for example, that went from 0 masks in March of 2020 to 3 months later, yes, you should mask, to January of this year, you should wear 2 masks. And then they went back in May of this year and said, you no longer need to mask. And now they're coming back saying, you should mask. The inconsistency coming from these public health people is really harming their credibility.
We could talk about this all day, and
Yeah.
I got a funny feeling that we're going to be talking about this next month when you come on and follow up on that as well. But again, we're already at like over 20 minutes, so I want to get to this. I need you to help, excuse me, help me understand this. So I read a lot of things, but I never know what political angles. Some websites or media outlets, we know exactly, where they are and what agenda they have and what they want the reader, what conclusion they want to come to. But currently there's a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that I believe the Senate approved this agreement or voted on this, and I think it was 69-30. So it's called, a bipartisan agreement vote, and it was sent now to the House. So I'm just assuming that this is okay. Let's get this done. I don't know how this stuff works, but if it was bipartisan Senate, maybe in the House as well. So that'd be kind of the first question: is this something that will be bipartisan there? And bipartisan, what do you have? 435 members in the House, right? 435.
Yes.
So I don't, if it's a simple majority, you need 218 votes. Are there 218 votes to get that done? So that's the first part. The second part, please help me understand. I read something from The Hill, which I like that website, and it was talking about Nancy Pelosi, and then tying this into this $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill has something to do with a $3.5 trillion something other bill, and that's where I started getting lost. Walk me through this.
Let me see if I can cut through the fog here. So, yes, there is this infrastructure bill that passed through the Senate. It's over $1 trillion. Roads, bridges, broadband, ports, airports, city water and sewer, all kinds of stuff like that would be included in that infrastructure bill. That is now before the House.
Mm-hmm.
What Speaker Pelosi is saying, I will not allow a vote, and she has the power to do this because she's a speaker. I will not allow a vote on this bill because I want the $3.5 trillion budget bill. You'll see the term reconciliation
That's
used.
the one I saw, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Reconciliation.
It's actually a budget bill, but what they can use reconciliation once or twice a year, which requires only a majority vote in the United States Senate. It does not have to pass the filibuster rules, which means you have to get 60 votes in order to be able to pass it. So she's saying to the United States Senate, you have to pass the $3.5 trillion, which is primarily the Green New Deal bill. I mean, that's really what it is.
Sure.
In addition, it has free community college, free daycare. There's all kinds of free stuff that's in there that they want to give the people of our country. And she's saying, Senate, you got to pass that and send it to us before I'll allow a vote on the infrastructure bill, because she's saying, I want that $3.5 trillion bill more than I want the infrastructure bill. It's easy for us to vote for the infrastructure bill. We won't get the $3.5 trillion Green New Deal bill done if we just vote on the infrastructure bill first. And what this is being driven by is from what I would say the left or the socialist side of her caucus. The people like Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, those type of people, Mark Pocan from Madison, those people are driving this. They're saying, we're not going to vote, Speaker Pelosi, for your infrastructure bill unless we also get the Green New Deal bill, which is $3.5 trillion. So let's put this into context a little bit. That ends up being about $5 trillion. Yeah. In fact, some people that measure this, they say that 1.2 plus 3.5 is 4.7, right?
Yeah.
But when you actually do the numbers on it, it comes to a much higher price tag than that, like $5 to $6 trillion. That is more money, Ben, than the United States Treasury takes in a year. Now, remember, the Treasury has to take in all kinds of money for Social Security, Medicare, all those programs like that eat up most of the budget. This stuff is going to spend all of it without paying for those other things that we have to pay for, like defense and the social programs that are already
those little things. I mean, whatever.
Those little things. And so, I mean, it is a spending palooza like we have never seen before in our country. So you can tell, as I describe it, that I'm probably going to vote no on it. And I vote no there is an alternative to this. We have a $400 billion infrastructure bill that we proposed in the United States House that would be the largest infrastructure spending bill ever in the history of our country. And it only funds roads, bridges, airports, ports, what I call real infrastructure. There's only about $300 billion of the over $1 trillion infrastructure bill that is actually about infrastructure.
Hold on a second. And I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't write it down, but I remember reading, this was on the Hill, so I can't remember. But I remember seeing it was, if I recall, it was just over $500 billion. It said like $550 billion is going to be used for, and it listed all this infrastructure stuff over several years. So I kept going down the article saying, okay, what about the other $700 billion? Like, where's that going? And no kidding, it didn't list it, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because where's the rest of it going? There must be where does that go? And if not, then just do the $550 billion one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what really should be done. And like I said, we have a very good proposal on the table to Speaker Pelosi for $400 billion, largest infrastructure bill ever, and only deals with infrastructure. But where's all the other spending going?
Yeah.
It's going for stuff like they're going to build electric car charging stations, something that the private sector should be doing. It's that type of stuff that spending is going to go to.
Okay.
Now, in regards to the $3.5 trillion Green New Deal program, if you want to look like California, then you should support the $3.5 trillion budget bill, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to basically wipe out the fossil fuel industry, and it's going to be all windmills, solar panels, and stuff like that, as well as free daycare, free community college, everything. I should be careful here. So many things that we normally pay for as individuals at this point, they supposedly now will be free. Remember something about California, though. They are continuing to have blackouts and wildfires and everything else. The lights are on about half the time in California now, and they're paying twice as much for their electricity. And they are actually paying twice as much for their electricity. They have been implementing the Green New Deal now for over a decade in California, and that's what ends up happening. They are seeing industry after industry leaving California because it has become so expensive to do business there.
So how does this play out? You're saying that Pelosi isn't allowing the $1.2 trillion to vote there until the Senate. So in a weird way, it's almost like this is absolutely the wrong terminology, so I'll say it, not you. And if anyone's upset, just send me hate mail. I don't care. It seems like she's holding the Senate hostage. And this $1.2 trillion bill hostage. Politics, that's a better word. Much better word. How does this play out, and when?
Yeah, so the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is being held hostage. She will not allow a vote on it. In fact, she has some of her Democrat members that are calling for, let us have a vote on this. She is holding the bill hostage. There's no doubt about it. This is power politics.
Sure.
She is working with Bernie Sanders in the United States Senate behind the scenes. They want to socialize all these costs, whether it's daycare, college, energy, you name it. They are saying we want to completely transform America. And they believe this is their one shot to do it. They're throwing, if you're playing poker, they're putting all their chips in, saying, we're putting it on this. And it will be really interesting to see, for example, will Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who have been portraying themselves as the moderate Democrats in the Senate, will they cave? That is ultimately going to be the question. Will they cave? Are there some other Democrats that are also going to cave on this and let Pelosi do as she wants to? Because if this happens, it will completely transform America. We will pay far more for energy. And just wait. Once you see things that are free, just wait to see how expensive they become.
It's funny how that works, right?
Funny how it works.
So just your opinion, is this going to work? Is her power play going to work?
I think that's good. I think she has a good chance of being successful because Nancy Pelosi will do whatever it takes to accomplish her policy goals, including cashiering some of her members. If you've been noticing, there's a number of Democrats that have announced they're retiring in the House of Representatives. Just recently this week, Ron Kind from the 3rd Congressional District in Wisconsin. Why are they leaving? They understand they are taking votes that their constituents do not agree with. And Nancy Pelosi does not care about Ron Kind or any of her other members as long as she accomplishes her policy goals. She is the ultimate political power player.
Well, this is another topic that I just love talking about and learning so much more about. We're already past our time, but I do want to make sure I bring up this last thing because it is significant. And again, if people don't pay attention to what is happening in the Middle East, right now, or at any point, I strongly suggest you start doing that. Taliban surge in Afghanistan is what I'd written down for a talking point. Obviously, you must be paying attention to that. We've talked about the Middle East before. So when you are looking at this, when you're seeing the news, what are your takeaways?
So first of all, I believe that we should get out of Afghanistan. The forever wars. I mean, I took that position a year or two ago that I just believe that we should get out of those areas. However, I think it's really important to do it in the correct fashion. And what is happening is that President Biden is pulling us out of Afghanistan as President Nixon did in Vietnam, just saying, we're done, we're out of here. You people are on your own. Too bad. And while I agree with getting out, I think it could have been done or should be done in a different and a better manner. And I'll give you a parallel to this. Remember when President Trump 4 years ago, I think it was like 2017, he said, we're going to get out of Iraq. We're going to get out of there and we'll leave some presidents, but boy, we're largely going to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
What happened immediately? ISIS came in and they just ran roughshod over northern Iraq into Syria, that area known as the Levant. They just ran roughshod. What did President Trump do? He came in and he brought the hammer down on them. And they basically, at that point, destroyed ISIS. We really haven't heard much from ISIS since, have we?
Not that I can recall. Now I think about it, I haven't thought about it
Not
before.
much since then. Not saying that they're
Sure.
completely neutered,
Yeah.
but boy, he really brought the hammer down on them, made it clear to them, though we're leaving Iraq, we're still paying attention. And you don't get to just run roughshod over this region. That is not happening in Afghanistan. We're just bailing out. And I believe we should get out, but it's the how. And I think there's a better way of getting us out of there, which I believe is not going to happen at this point.
Mhm.
I think it's baked in the cake at this point, and the Taliban are going to overrun Afghanistan the way it looks, and that country is going to go back to basically the 7th century.
Yeah. Oh, I think there were, as of this morning, I think 13 and 14 of the major cities now. I mean, it's scary. And again, I look at all these different news websites, the major ones, national media, world media, and there's only like Al Jazeera, and every once in a while BBC was having some information on this. So that's when I started putting those in our U.S. World headline links, because you kind of see, when you look at this stuff enough, you start seeing, okay, I know where this is going, and it's not going to go or end well. And now, even as of this morning, it was the main story on CBS News, NBC News, or all their so it's like, okay, it's been happening for a while now. I'm really concerned how this is going to play out. I don't know if you have any idea how it's going to, but I don't see this ending well.
So, Ben, I think there should be two goals here in regards to this. One, we should be getting out of Afghanistan, just as we got out of Iraq and all the rest. But you also have to make sure that these bad guys, the terrorists who export terrorism around the world, including to the United States, like we saw with 9/11, you have to also make sure that they're not reconstituting and they're going to inflict incredible harm on us once again. That is why the previous administration, when they went after ISIS, when we were moving Iraq, they did the right thing because it kept ISIS from recalibrating, from reorganizing, and becoming a force once again. The big concern here is, do the Taliban, by taking over Afghanistan now, do they become strong enough that they can export terror? That is the one. So we should
that's
get
the worst
out
case
of there.
scenario. Yeah.
We got to make sure that we're not allowing them to export terror to the United States once again.
Yep. And that's my, obviously, huge concern. And again, this is all of our, thank you so much, actually, for talking about these. We only discussed 3 topics for the most part. But man, that was great. I love having these conversations. You are, obviously, we'll be back in a month from now to do another follow-up and another Breakfast with Tiffany show. We can see where we are in the Middle East. It's going to be close to August, September, close to school starting at that point, right?
Oh,
the next time you come out, right? Yep. So we can have a discussion about that. So good stuff for next time as well. And you are heading to, you said it's Burnett Polk Co-op thinking, but where are you? In Polk County. Got it.
Yeah.
Are you going to see, is Adam Jarko going to be there? Maybe?
I don't know.
Well, it's his.
Adam, if you're watching, you know my travel schedule.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. Well, punch him in the shoulder for me. I mean, that's how I'll say hi.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Anything else going on?
Just to repeat,
Sure.
if you want to get an update about the district and what's happening in Washington, D.C., we put out the Tiffany Telegram
That's right.
every Friday.
Yeah.
All you have to do is sign up. You get it via email every Friday.
I love it.
And certainly do that. We have nearly 200,000 people that get that every
Holy
Friday.
buckets.
And it's good information that comes out of there. You're sure welcome to sign up on that. But I just hope everybody enjoys the rest of summer. You know, it doesn't last long enough here in northern Wisconsin. Here we are in the middle of August. Boy, make sure you go out and enjoy some summer, and because there's no better place to enjoy summer than northern and western Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long ago. 2020. What a year that was, and we're like 4.5 months away from 2022.
Yeah.
This has just been. It's gone by fast. Tom, thank you so much. As always, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you, sir.
We'll talk soon.
You got it. Special thank you to 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany for once again making himself available for questions and speaking with us today, and thank you for watching. I'm Ben Dryden, and until next time, stay safe, stay positive, and as always, have a blessed day.